Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I am so glad you're here. Today, I am going to share why Nikole Stanfield is so badass. So you know the drill. As usual, there's 3 reasons why Nikole Stanfield is so badass. And there's many more, but we're going to go over 3 today. The first reason why Nikole is so badass is because of her intentional splurging. The second reason is for how she schedules for freedom. And the third reason is for how she uses stress response, or how she uses her stress response. All right, let's get into it, because I know you're busy, you got stuff to do. So let's get to the nitty gritty of why Nikole Stanfield is so badass. So the first reason why Nikole is so badass is because of her intentional spending. Now, Nikole said to go and spend, like to splurge, actually not intentional spending, intentional splurging. And on a personal note, you know that I love some intentional spending, intentional splurging. I'm not against splurging. I just think you got to do it in the right way. Anyway, I digress. Nikole Stanfield says, plan what you're going to spend, like do self-care, right? So she said, maybe a lot of times when people are suffering from burnout, that they are feeling depleted. You have nothing left in the tank. You are exhausted. Have you ever felt that way? I know that I have, certainly many times, and maybe I didn't do the self-care that was needed. So Nikole says, one of those things when you're depleted and you need self-care, then to go spend $5 or $10 on something that you really love doing, or something that brings you joy. What brings you joy? Now, I don't know if you think about this, if you spend time wondering or being intentional about what brings you joy. So often we just think, yep, that brings me joy. No, that's not it. So often we just think, yep, joy should come natural. It should come easy to all of us. But that's not necessarily the case. We really do have to be intentional about our joy and make sure to incorporate it into our lives. So for me, the things that bring me joy are like, let's have a dance party. And that is completely free, right? I will be the first to admit I suck at dancing. You don't want to see it. It is bad. But like, that brings me happiness, is to have a dance party. I was going to say an ugly dance party. Yeah. Remember, oh gosh, why did I just forget her name? Seinfeld. Oh, Elaine from Seinfeld. And she had that awful, ugly, horrible dance. Okay, I'm dating myself, but that would be me. I would be Elaine with some awful, crazy dance, and people are like, what is she doing? So yes, I have been looked at sideways for my dance moves, I'm sure, but you know what? In the privacy of your own home, nobody has to see how ridiculous you look. But you could do something free, or, hey, Nikole asked me, what do you like doing, Marie? What brings you joy? What can you buy for $5 or $10 that makes you happy? And I said, coffee, of course, even if it's decaf, because that's what I'm drinking these days, is decaf. But like going and getting some decaf coffee, I like it. It's good. So Nikole said that for her, it is going to get flowers, go get some fresh cut flowers, and that brings her joy. Maybe it's going to get sushi or fast food or something, but you plan these things, right? Plan to do something for yourself, or when you're feeling depleted, when you're feeling exhausted, plan to go do something that's going to bring you joy, that's going to bring your energy level up. That is an option. I think oftentimes we forget about that. And kind of circling back to the budget piece, because I got to add this in, is you can always budget for a splurge. If you know, hey, once a week, I'm going to splurge on myself. I'm going to go buy myself a coffee, or buy myself some flowers, or some sushi, whatever your thing is, and I'm going to spend $10 on it, then okay, then you budget $40 into your budget for that, right? You say, okay, this month I'm going to spend $40 on things for me. So every week, one thing, $10 or less. That's fine. I don't think you need to restrict yourself to pay off debt or to save money. You still need to have a life, and you still need to feel joy. So that's the first thing, is intentional splurging. I love that idea. So the second reason why Nikole Stanfield is so badass is because she schedules her freedom. How much are you scheduling these days? I know I've become more of a scheduler, but in the past, until I had the podcast, I really didn't schedule a ton. So scheduling can be important. Or if you look at your schedule, maybe if you have a family, if you have kids, then you probably have some sort of schedule to look if they have music practice or they have a sports game or whatever the thing is. You might have a schedule to go look at and be like, oh, there's that. So you schedule something in, right? Well, just like you're scheduling those priorities or those things for your family, you also can schedule things for your freedom. So Nikole gave the example. She schedules her dinner. She puts her dinner in her schedule. And so if somebody calls her and says, hey, do you want to go do this on such and such date? She is less likely to say yes to them because she knows she has something planned, even if it's just dinner. And I say just, but here's the thing. Your priorities are your priorities. If it's big deal to you, who cares if it's a little deal to other people, right? This is your life. You get one stinking life. So if it is a big priority to you, put it in your stinking schedule. If your values say family is a big deal to me, then okay, cool. Let that reflect in that schedule of yours, right? Like, it is not easy. It really isn't. To find joy, well, it's easy. It just might not be something that we follow, right? It might not be easy to think to schedule, or it's easy to schedule something in your phone, put it in your phone calendar, but just to like follow through, that's where it can be hard sometimes, or just getting in the habit of it. But like Nikole said, is if she puts that meeting in her calendar and somebody calls her to do something and she's like, oh wait, I have plans with my husband, I can't do that. Or it at least makes her think, I got to rearrange that, or I got to talk to my spouse first. That works, right? But at least it makes you think about it. Like, where are my intentions here? Where are my priorities? What matters most? And here's one thing. Say you schedule creative time, or you schedule spa time, or whatever it is, something that like makes you relax, right? And somebody calls and asks you to do something, you feel like, oh, well, I don't really have anything. I'm spending alone time. Well, that is something. That is a huge something. This alone time, this me time, this refueling time, this is what fuels us, right? Or I don't care if it's taking an art class around people, but like whatever these things that your passion are, or that bring joy and excitement out of you, these are things to do. So if you do have something like, oh, I'm doing an art class, maybe then you tell your friend, hey, you can join me in doing this, but no guilt, no shade, if you just say no. Saying no can be so hard. I can't even pretend that I have this down yet. Have I gotten better? Yes. But man, I come from a people-pleasing background, so it is super hard for me to say no, especially to like my family or my loved ones, because I always want to help out. I want to do right by them. But if I want to do right by other people, I first have to do right by me. What good are you to other people if you're not coming from your core, coming from your soul, or the things that feel in alignment with you? And I believe this is something Nikole said on the episode. Like, okay, if I go do one of those things, I go do something that is like not aligned with my values, then I'm going to feel it. I'm going to go to that party or that gathering, whatever the event is, and you're going to be like, ugh, no bueno. That's my words, not Nikole's, but no good, right? You're just going to feel like a bump on a log and you're not going to want to do anything. So who wants to hang out with a bump on a log? I feel so old saying that, but seriously, who wants to hang out with somebody that's lame, that has no excitement, no thrill, no joy? Most of us don't. So if you're going to go somewhere just to go, just to be present, I don't think that it's worth it. It's not worth it for you. It's not worth it for the people at the gathering. Everybody's going to sense that you don't want to be there, or that you don't have the energy or the excitement to be there and to be talking to people. And maybe you don't have to talk to a bunch of people. I'm just using that as an example. So looking for or scheduling your freedom helps you to set boundaries. Like I said, boundaries are not easy. They're very hard at times, but the more you do it, the more practice, okay, then you start to build that muscle, flex that muscle a little bit, get a bit stronger. So definitely schedule for freedom, powerful technique. I love it. I think that I'm going to start adding that into my thing. Maybe even just some creativity time. Like I can be creative. It has nothing to do with my business. It has nothing to do with anything. I'm just doing it for fun, just doing it for me. So what are you going to do? How are you going to schedule time for freedom? What are the things that you want to be intentional about scheduling? So I'm going to urge you, put pause on this podcast. I know that's a podcast no-no to tell you to put pause, but put pause and schedule something. Schedule something that you want to do, that you want to make time for. And you know what? If you have a crazy week and you're like, Marie, just not going to happen this week, cool, no shade. do what you got to do. But probably 2 weeks from now, or in the next 2 weeks, you can do it. So your challenge is to schedule it. Schedule some self-care. Schedule something that you want to do. If you want to start having dinner with the family, put that in your calendar. Ask your significant other, ask your spouse to put that in their calendar too. If that's what you guys want to do, if everybody wants to have dinner together with the family, okay, cool. Put that in your calendar. Dinner at the table with family. And then it's more likely to be a thing. You're a badass. I know that you got this. So I'm expecting to hear in my Instagram DMs how you did this, what you put in your calendar, what you put in your schedule, and then if you followed through on it. So can't wait to hear about that. By the way, I'm at Ordinary to Badass on Instagram, and I love hearing from you. So you can either throw something in your Instagram stories or DM me, because I can't wait to hear. I love hearing when people follow through on things. It makes me happy, brings me joy. All right. So the third thing that makes Nikole Stanfield so badass is her stress response. Now, Nikole talked about this whole thing about accountability and what to do when you're feeling stressed out or when you want to do something, but you're just not quite there. Like you're not able to make yourself do it. And so you have some accountability, or you're looking for some accountability to hold your feet to the fire, to be like, okay, I want to do this, but it's really hard for me right now. Well, instead of making it like, let's go, we got to grind. I'm familiar with that. That's absolutely my territory, but I realize that's not necessarily the best way of doing things. And Nikole suggests like, okay, instead of going for the grind, then maybe you have some accountability. Set yourself up with an accountability buddy, right? Find a friend. She even said, like, the last person that you text in your phone, that's who you can talk to. Talk to the last person that you sent a text message to and said, hey, I'm really struggling. I'm always eating my lunch at the office, and that's not healthy for me. Is there any way you'll be accountable with me? Yeah, cool. Okay. And so then you guys, the two of you agree, like every day, let's send a picture of our lunch, like that we're going out to lunch and where we're at. And it doesn't have to be a restaurant. When I said going out to lunch, it made it sound like it has to be out at a restaurant, but just that you're not at your desk eating. So you take a selfie, take a picture of your food. If maybe you're trying to eat healthy, and so you want to show them your salad every day or whatever it is that you're eating for lunch, or where you're eating. Maybe that you're in the break room. Maybe you're eating on the go while you're going for a walk. It doesn't all have to be the same. You have to, in my mind, you have to tweak things that work for you. What works for Nikole, what works for me might not be what works for you. Like that might not be the thing that relaxes you or makes you happy. But instead of powering through your work hour or your lunch and then risking suffering burnout, because that's no fun, right? Nikole described on the episode about how she went through burnout and how she was just exhausted, and she took a week or two off work and could not bring herself to get back to it. because it was just so exhausting. And some of that is because you're not providing yourself any time for self-care. You're not scheduling things that are important to you. You're not looking to your friends for accountability. Accountability is huge. It can motivate you beyond, like I was going to say beyond your wildest dreams, but that sounded a little corny, but it can motivate you beyond what you think it can. That just reminded me. One time I did this challenge with my sister, and every single morning we would get up before work. I have to start work earlier than her, so I would text her a bit earlier than she would text me. And we'd just say, hey, working out. Sometimes we'd send a pic, but usually we'd just text each other that we're working out, so the other one would know. But it was about being accountable. It was like, oh, I'm not just doing this alone. Even though I was alone in my house doing it, I knew that my sister was doing it at a separate location. And so that kept me doing it so much longer, because I know, oh, I'm not 4 a.m. awfully early, felt pretty brutal at the time. And I'm not going through that brutalness alone. My sister is going through it too. So that accountability kept me doing it for quite a while, way longer than I would have done it otherwise. There are plenty of options, and there's times to hit reset. Like when you're doing that thing, and say you're doing a workout challenge, like I just discussed in the morning with a friend, with a sibling, and you're getting up. Okay, I completely lost my train of thought. But you can do those challenges, and you can hit reset. That's where I was going with this. You can do a challenge and hit reset. If you screw up, F up, feel like, oh my gosh, I completely messed this up, or you fall off the wagon for a week and you're like, didn't do it all week long. I said I was going to do it, but I didn't. You can ask your friend for a reset. Nobody is looking for perfection here. Nobody. It's about doing things that are helping you, that are bettering you, making you feel good, bringing you joy in the process. But there is no shame in a reset. There is something to say about being persistent and consistent. And that means even if you fall off for a day, a week, a month, a year, that you get back on it. You become committed. You're like, I am going to do this. Come hell or high water, here I am. I don't care that I stopped for a year. I am back on this. And that's like the grit, the tenacity that you need. Just be persistent and consistent. All of our life changes, we think they happen in these big, epic moments and these life-changing moments that are so huge. Guess what? They happen in the day-to-day. And I feel like when I had Tiffany Babb on the podcast, she said something like that, like our extraordinary moments happen in the day-to-day. They don't happen in these big events. They don't happen at the marathon, but they happen in the daily training on your way to your marathon. So whatever the end result is, a lot of times the big thing that you're getting is actually from the work that you're putting in day after day. And I'm not suggesting that you overwork. I'm just saying whatever habit it is that you're trying to change, whatever thing you're trying to learn, it's a journey. It doesn't have to happen overnight. You don't have to get the results overnight. Just keep working on it over time. All right. Quick recap. 3 reasons why Nikole Stanfield is so badass. The first reason is because of her intentional splurging. Second reason is because she schedules freedom. And the third and final reason is because of her stress response. So if you like this episode, well, if you like Nikole's episode as much as I did, please, please, please take a screenshot, throw it on the gram, and let her know what you thought of the episode. And of course, tag me at Ordinary to Badass, because I want to know too. I'll throw Nikole's Instagram handle in the show notes. So yeah, we want to know. She was vulnerable. She shared her story and really got into it deep. So let's let her know what your takeaways were. What did you learn? What are you going to apply? Did you try anything? I don't care if this is a year out from when the episode airs, we like to hear these things. We like to hear like, oh, they learned something from my story. It was worth it, me being that vulnerable, me telling you what happened to me. So definitely take a screenshot, throw it on the gram, tag me at Ordinary to Badass, and tag Nikole Stanfield. And again, I'll throw her link in the podcast or in the show notes, as well as the episode notes. So with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, and my dog, my husky's walking around, so sorry about the pitter patter, but to all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.